we can go straight into David Benavidez, Chris. You know why? Because he wasn't even the headliner in his card, Chris. He won't even be the headliner on our show either. He's an undercard. He's an undercard name right now. David Benavidez facing Oleksandr Gvozdyk. Goes 12 rounds. Couldn't really hurt him throughout the fight. Won most of the rounds. Jesus, I think, said he had Gvozdyk winning. Let me scroll back up to that comment, but let me get your take on this. I think I said last week if he didn't stop Gvozdyk in under 6, it was going to be disappointing, or under 5, whatever I said. 37-year-old Gvozdyk, a Gvozdyk who retired for about 3 years, had been fighting some 6-rounders. He hadn't fought in a 12-rounder since 2019, 5 years. So this is definitely a Gvozdyk way past his prime, 10 years older than Benavidez, and still had Benavidez struggling a little bit. Let me get your take on this fight. You're a big David Benavidez fight, so I want to hear what you have to say.
Hey, so I'm a big fan, like you said, Gio, but I'm also gonna keep it real. That's what we do here on this podcast. Like you said, we said if Benavidez doesn't finish, Gvozdyk, like you said, past his prime Gvozdyk at 37, he doesn't finish him under certain rounds. I know you gave him less rounds. I gave him like a round or two extra. We would not be impressed. And even though it is his first fight at 175, we know that he walks around, 200 plus. So, in my opinion, not his best performance. He looked lackluster. There was moments, like you said, Gvozdyk, got the better of him, especially in the early rounds. We know that Gvozdyk is known for his boxing skills, but hey, this is the Mexican monster. This is David Benavidez. This is the guy that's been calling out Canelo for 2-3 plus years. And yeah, again, I wasn't impressed. The only thing I could give him is his first fight at 175. I'm sure he's adjusting to the new weight, but again, not lackluster performance. Moments of brightness, but nothing overall to say like, hey, you are the monster. So hey, hopefully he looks better his next fight around.
Yeah, so a couple of things there. It definitely wasn't his first fight at 175. That's a myth. I mean, you can go. I'll show you guys on BoxRec right now, but I just want to show you guys Gvozdyk. We talked about this last week. The last time he fought 12 rounds was here, March of 2019. So over 5 years ago. Took that loss to Gvozdyk after that. TKO'd in the 10th. That big unification bout. I'm trying to close this here. After that, he took a few, 6-rounders, a 10-rounder, an 8-rounder, fighting guys, just trying to get back into rhythm of things. And I mean, he went 12 rounds with David Benavidez. I mean, I'm shocked. I don't know how Benavidez allowed that. He said he was injured. You know what they all say when they can knock their opponent out. But yeah, he's fought. I think his second fight was at 180 pounds, and he has a few fights there over at 175 or over. He has about, I don't know, let's say like 10 fights at that weight class. So this is definitely not a new weight class for him. He's fought at light heavy before, no excuses, especially against a guy 37 years old, retired for a few years, came back, got probably his last big paycheck. And let me tell you this, he actually looked good against Benavidez. I mean, this is shocking, right? I think against any other guy, imagine Canelo fought Gvozdyk, right? Imagine how much criticism Canelo would take. But, David fights him, doesn't shine. And I heard a lot of that excuse, Chris, the one you gave. Oh, his first time at 175, which is not true. Oh, maybe the injury. Oh, Gvozdyk has only been stopped once. Yeah, that was 5 years ago. He's 37 years old now. So I think inexcusable, but it's David Benavidez, so they'll let him slide.
Yeah, again, we can't forget that Gvozdyk was, Olympian. Again, that's his prime, but
Yeah,
he's still an
Chris,
Olympian. He
Chris,
still put on a good fight.
that was 20 years ago, Chris. That was 20 years ago.
Hey, skills are skills, Gio. Ukrainian school of boxing it is what it is. But again,
man.
37. Again, with that momentum that Benavidez comes, the momentum he's had the last, 5-6 years, and like you said, Gvozdyk taking a beating, and a beating that sent him into retirement. We covered his first fight in the comeback, small little card in Pomona. We weren't too impressed. He looked very, very rusty. We just expected Benavidez to do what what he did to David Lemieux, what he did to some of those other guys that are past their primes. And yeah, man, again, Gvozdyk showed, a bit of a class in that fight, and David Benavidez disappointed.
Yeah, let's go to some comments here. Let's see what people are saying. Benavidez giving the excuse of injuries. Truth is, he doesn't have the destructive power when he faces people his size, says Big Bro. Adi says, David, I'm going to create my own path at 175. F. Canelo. He fights Gvozdyk, then proceeds to activate his WBC mandatory afterwards against Canelo. He said he was going back to 68. Now, I don't think he wants to stay at 75, but we'll see. They saw a veteran and Gvozdyk was able to survive without ever being hurt and marked up his face. Got him almost looking like Haney. That's another thing. Benavidez cut by a punch early in the fight. He had more marks than Gvozdyk. Gvozdyk had a clean face after the fight. So, I mean, obviously that's not an indicator of who won. I do think Benavidez won. I think all of us think Benavidez won, but it was a terrible look. PBC, the commentators were trying their best to hype up Benavidez and say he was dominating and looking great, but hey, man, I saw what I saw. I saw what I saw. Last comments here before we let you continue, Chris. Benavidez versus Gvozdyk was literally like Isaac Cruz versus Giovanni Cabrera. Big Bro says, funniest part was him trying to explain what the injury was, stuttering and looking back to his team to tell him what it was. Yeah, that was funny. I think his dad was like, ligament. He kept telling him to say ligament. Dad, what'd you say? I broke again, says Hadi. He better stay away from B-Ball and better BF, says Big Bro. He ain't ready. He knows it himself. That's why he's going back down. Yeah, that's the part that surprised me the most. Benavidez saying, oh, I want to collect all the belts at 75. But right after the fight, he says, no, I'm going back down. So I think that's a big indicator, which I'm surprised. Like I said, he's fought at this weight class before. Yeah, I think he's been doing a good job lately. I mean, look, more recently, he fought at that weight class against, who was it? Alexis Angulo. He didn't make weight for that fight, right? If I'm not mistaken, I think that's the one he missed weight for. So it wasn't that long ago that he fought technically as a light heavyweight. So yeah, no excuses on my end. To me, I've always said Canelo would beat him, and I mean, I don't think David has done anything lately to prove me otherwise.
So we'll see what happens with Benavidez. But yeah, definitely a little surprising for him to say that he's going back to 168.
Yeah, and some interesting things that he said also after the fight was, they asked him his weight. He claimed to be 189, Chris. Are we buying that? 189? He said he only gained 14 pounds.
Yeah. I like the guy, but nah, he walks around 200. Walks around 200.
Yeah, I'm surprised that Gvozdyk went 12 rounds at this point of his career. Like I said, he hasn't done it in 5 years, so I was shocked by that. Both men looked gassed at the end, tired. I think Gvozdyk actually threw more punches than Benavidez. I thought the fight was closer than maybe the scorecards showed, but nonetheless, good win for David Benavidez, and he's out here looking like Tank, Chris. He keeps collecting them junior belts.
Yeah, I think after this fight, I don't think you can favor him, against a guy like Bivol. We said Gvozdyk is a good boxer and past his prime, but a good boxer, and we know Bivol is in his prime. We saw what Bivol, did against Canelo with those boxing skills. Didn't need power, just needed discipline and the school of boxing in that fight. So if he does that with Benavidez, I think it's an easy UD for Bivol. As for Beterbiev, even though he is, getting out of his prime and having injuries more often than before, I think he still has more than enough power to hurt somebody like David Benavidez. And again, I do like David. I think he connects with the fans. He keeps it as real as any fighter can. He almost feels like he's your neighbor. But yeah, again, I think he's trying to understand that maybe one weight class is better suited for him. And we'll see what happens. Again, I think he's great action. for boxing, and so I love to see him, go back to his ways. But again, lackluster performance in my opinion for David Benavidez.
Yeah, and what I'm looking at here is the pay per view numbers against Andre, Chris. Um, s- one one of the sources put 60K. Is that true? 60K. They're saying on this one too. A couple of the websites are saying 60K. Uh, not sure if that's 100% accurate or not, but let's give him 75K against Andre, right? Let's just be nice. PBC inflates the numbers anyway. Let's see what he did against Plant. You want to take a guess?
With Plant, I'm gonna say 125K. That one had some bad blood.
Okay, so it says 49K TV pay-per-view buys. If you go with the what? If you go with a 2-to-1 streaming over TV Edge, you're looking at about 150K. Not sure what that means, but 150K. This one says 750K. No, that's not real. Um,
He's like, that's not real.
that's probably a PBC source. But my point is, look, he's not a headliner. He doesn't sell pay-per-views, but he's still calling out Canelo. But look, the people want to see it, Chris. So I think the fight will happen. I think the fight will happen eventually. He'll probably get a tiny split. I don't think he deserves a big one, but it seems like them and their team want to. They don't care about that, right? That's what they've said in the past. So, um, yeah, I can see the fight happening, and I don't really see Benavidez getting better, Chris. So, uh, I think Canelo, even though he is getting older, he has 60 plus fights. I think he should still be the favorite. I'm not gonna be disrespectful and say by a lot, but Canelo has fought way better opponents than David Benavidez.
For me, and Addy makes a good point. There's certain fighters that they're able to win on brute strength alone. They're able to sometimes weight bully their opponents. Matias, I don't want to say he weight bullied, but he had that, you know, he had that style where he overpowers, opponents into submission. But you come across these really good boxers, these great boxers, these great technicians like like the Canelos, then you find out real quick that you got to have more wrinkles to your game to win. I think David has one or two dimensions that he's really good at. And he's able to break down opponents and overpower and win the more of the rounds. But I think when you go up against guys like Canelo, other guys are a little bit more elite. I think that's where he's gonna come. He's gonna fall short. But again, he's good for boxing. He's entertaining. Fat. The style is friendly. So I like to see him. In better matches, more guys in their prime. And hey, again, just fan friendly fights.
Benavidez versus Gvozdyk was a gentleman's sparring session, says El Pachuco. He also says, I think Munguia would be Benavidez at 68. And he also adds, I hope we get to know the real pay-per-view numbers for the past PBC events. I mean, do you want to make a prediction, Chris?
The last one for this event,
Yeah, for this one.
Pink.
I couldn't find anything. I Googled it before the show started. I couldn't find anything. So I'm not sure they'll post anything, but
I want to say if I had to predict, I would say like 250K. Again, I think we talked about this, right, Gio? We said certain numbers. Obviously, we're no experts, but we picked certain numbers. What would be a successful pay per view event? For big names like Canelo, for big names where you're mixing Ryan and a tank. I think anything over 500K is successful. For lesser names or guys that think they have a name, if they don't sell at least 250 to 300K, in my opinion, it's a dud. Anything under 100K is just like you're not selling anything. It's a flop. So for this one, Tank is a good name. Benavides has some stock with the Mexican people. I want to say at least 250K. You have to sell at least 250K, to come close to that success, in my opinion.
Adi says 600K. I'm gonna go under 200K. Um,
Oh,
and I think only because they shot themselves in the foot. Like the outcome of these fights were predetermined. Let's keep it real. Like I don't think anybody predicted that Martin would beat Tank. I don't think anyone predicted that Gvozdyk would beat Benavidez. I think these fights were set up for Davis and Benavidez to shine, to get KOs. Davis did his thing. Benavidez couldn't. I don't think there was much on that undercard either. I don't know. I think it'll do under 200K. But it's gonna be very interesting. Let's see next week when we come back. Let's see if they have any numbers out there. We know it's PBC and they tend to inflate their numbers. But we'll see. It should be interesting. I'm saying under 200K. You're saying about 250. I think we're thinking about the same number. Adi says 600K. If this one does 600K, that's amazing for fights that were so wide on the odds. I think the Benavidez one he was like plus 650 or something like that to beat Gvozdyk.